All right, welcome back to the Ottawa studios of Inside My Canoe Head. I am your host, Dr. D. Today, we are going to talk about the use of physical force, pugilism. Is there a time that's appropriate to throw hands? So sit back, grab yourself your favorite beverage. Let's get at her. All right, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again on the channel. We appreciate your ongoing support. We appreciate your commentary. And I hope if you're a listener and you've seen a number of our recent videos that are on YouTube or you're following us on the podcast, that you start to see there's a consistency in our message. We're talking about personal responsibility, personal accountability, and a roadmap to resilience. Now, if you're really interested in what do I have to do to adopt a prepared life? What do I have to do to put order into chaos? How do I, as an individual, without expending any money, grab a hold of the world around me and let it spin less? Over on our website, preparednesslabs.ca, great Canadian, there is a roadmap to resilience link, and it links to our Substack where the 5 articles are written. There's a link to the YouTube channel where there's a 5-video playlist, or it's linked over to the podcast app where all 5 podcast lessons are in a row. And it's our free offering to the community at large to say there's a roadmap to resilience that doesn't cost you any money, right? Preparedness is free. It always will be. Any economic barrier to preparedness is a construct of the state. The state tells you you have to buy something. You lack the funds to do so. Therefore, you believe that there is a monetary barrier to acquiring preparedness when in fact there isn't. And I personally wrote my PhD dissertation on preparedness at the municipal and household level. I've studied it for over a decade, and I lecture at it in a graduate program in at least 3 courses a year, and I academic supervise. The reason I'm saying that is I am absolutely, unquestionably certain that the roadmap to resilience is free. It won't cost you any money, but it absolutely will cost you time and effort, right? You have to dedicate time. You have to dedicate effort. You have to put your thinking cap on, and you have to do a little bit of cognitive work to get there, but it most certainly will not cost any money out of your pocket. Now, our last couple of episodes on minimalism and simplicity was really trying to make you understand that this life you're living is really yours to carve. Now, a lot of us get drawn into tangents. A lot of us get drawn into volunteering for a bunch of different things and helping people out. And before you know it, you feel like an octopus with your legs pulled out in every direction. You feel overwhelmed. And the message about simplicity and minimalism was not about, reducing the amount of physical goods you have just for the sake of it. It was really about you understanding that this life that you have is yours to carve out as you see fit. That it is a privilege to be in your life, other than those we work with. And if you want to earn an income, you're going to have to work around and for people you may not like. But other than that, everybody else in your life, everybody that you grant access to your personal space should bring you joy. The activities you do should bring you joy. For a lot of people, that's invoking, a dozen hours or more a week in a community service because they believe in their community, they love their community, they love the people around them, and that's fantastic because it brings them joy. We talked about also thinking about getting outside of your comfort zone, thinking about that you might want to try things that are a little more risky, and that you growing as a human being, both personally and financially, it can only happen at the edge of your comfort zone. It can only happen when you meet people or you do things that are a little bit uncomfortable, are a little bit more risky. Calculated risk, absolutely, but they're a little bit more risky. And when you think about life that way, you realize that once you try these things, once you go beyond that line of comfortableness that sits in front of you and you become a little bit riskier and a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit anxious and a higher degree of uncertainty, you realize you're capable of some pretty amazing things that you never even thought of because you didn't take the leap of faith and believe in yourself and step over that line. And those 2 episodes are really about saying, hey, you're responsible for your life and it can grow if you choose to do so. Again, nothing I talk about on this podcast, in the YouTube channel, anywhere is about spending money. It's about you realizing that you can have a nice, comfort, tiny life, but that's going to lead to regret. We see that the most regretful thing that people have, or the number one feeling of those in respite and hospice care, is that they have a regret that they didn't live the life they wanted. They lived the life that everybody else told them they should, or that they're supposed to. This week's episode, we want to talk about throwing hands. We want to talk about the uncomfortable truth, the reality that we live in a collective society in our urban areas where we're seeing an increased level of violence against vulnerable populations and an increased level of bravado in the crimes, in the sense that they're not happening in the traditional places. You're walking down the street at 3 a.m. and somebody tries to mug you. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Somebody walks up to you in a parking lot with your groceries in one hand and punches you upside the head, beats you to the ground, and takes your groceries or takes your wallet. While it is scarce and the probability of you being involved in physical combat is low, it is not zero. Now, this is not designed to make you afraid. The content of what we're going to talk about zeroes in on 3 ideas. And those 3 ideas are about how to empower you to continue to exist and continue to do the things that you love, living in a society that is beyond your control to the sense that it has a growing level of violence. And the first part that we talk about is let's call it your perception. Now, it's grounded in the theory of situational awareness. And situational awareness is simply understanding the world around you as it happens and being present in the current situation. Some people call it undistracted. If you look at the corollary and you look at the distracted life, how many people do you see in public transit or walking down the street or in the mall? They're buried in their phone. They've got earbuds in that are obviously playing something loud, and they're otherwise totally distracted to the surroundings. Now, we've looked at the research over the last couple of weeks that has been done on nonviolent and minor assaults and thefts in urban areas in North America and in Europe. And it's clear in the research when they talk to the perpetrators that it was all about finding a soft target. It's finding the distracted individual who is presenting themselves as somebody who is unaware of the surroundings, which makes them very easy. I.e., you'll see people sitting in cars in traffic with the window rolled down, sitting there like this, looking at their cell phone when the window is open right here. Somebody comes by on a bike and your $1,000 cell phone is gone and you're in traffic and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Does that mean you don't use your cell phone in the car? No, that just means your cell phone is not held up right next to the window that is open. Those are basic precautions. But situational awareness is about you being present and seeing and hearing the world around you. It doesn't mean you're a head on a swivel and you're like some gray man, urban warrior running around in your mind. You got your assault rifle. It's none of that crap, right? That's just a load of BS. What situational awareness is you being able to hear sounds around you and you walking tall, chest out, and walking confidently. When we look at the data, people who walk confidently, purposefully, are looking at the world around them and are paying attention to where they are and what is going on, are far less likely to be targeted by an opportunistic criminal. Nobody here is, going to be hit by a formal mob hit. We're talking about people looking for opportunities to steal from you in the middle of the day in an urban center or something along that lines, right? By presenting yourself in society as a harder target, right? And it doesn't matter. You could be 70 years old and reasonably frail. But if you've got a bag cross chest and you're walking with your head and you're just kind of looking around and you're diligently going from place to place to place, you're a harder target, right? Obviously, you may be an easier target than somebody in their mid-20s with a big buff build. But the point is, if you're just kind of dozing along and you're not paying any attention and you're doom scrolling on the escalator and somebody comes the other way and reaches over and grabs your phone, are you ready to physically react? And this is point 2. The most effective weapon you have in times of chaos and when a violent episode is presented to you is your ability to run. Jocko Willink, even a famous Navy SEAL, even says this. He'll run away. He'll run away when people threaten him. When people do anything other than physically grab him, he will run away. Nobody's interested in lawsuits. You punch a guy, he falls down, he hits his head on the curb, and you get 6 years in jail for manslaughter. Don't matter whether you agree with it. This happens on a reasonably regular basis. So even Jocko Willink says run away. Combat is... You don't win awards by, look at me, how tough I was. I beat the guy up as you get charged with assault and blah, blah, blah. This is not about nailing up your male bravado chain, getting notches in your belt and looking how tough you are. It's about your ability to navigate a world that is becoming more and more physically violent. Not to the point where you avoid it, but the point you understand that if you're presented with an rapid onset, no notice, dangerous situation in your face, the best thing you can do is run. When I asked you about that escalator, ask yourself, could you hop over that escalator and chase that person to get your phone? That's a measure of your physical fitness. And I mention this because one of the key elements, the first element to adopting a prepared life or become resilient is accepting responsibility for your outcomes, right? If you believe you're responsible for the good days and the bad days, and you're not dependent and relying on somebody else, the government, or some magical thing to come out of the sky and save you, you're good. It's you. But then when you look at yourself, again, this is free to adjust, you have your mental, your physical, and your financial health. Those are 3 things that are directly correlated to better leaders, better outcomes, and better on-the-spot reaction. Your physical fitness is something only you can address. Nobody's coming to rescue you. Nobody's going to come grab you by your hair and drag you into a gym and start making you work out or even walk. Most of my workouts, I'm 54 years old. I'm not out of shape, but I'm not in the best shape that I want to be, and I'm working on it. 90% of my workouts are just walking on an incline treadmill. That's it. And the odd sprint. I'm building my physical ability to react. I need to be able to run away, and I need to be able to run after somebody who steals something from me. Could you do that? The answer, only you can answer that question, whether you're in the shape or have the ability to do some kind of physical response. If you can't run away, there is the third part and the third question that comes up. In the unlikely event, and I say unlikely, and I mean it's a very low probability event, that you are presented with a physical situation where you don't have an easy exit run and your exit is on the other side of a human being, do you have the skill set to remove that human being from in front of you? And I don't mean jurisdictions where firearms are allowed. We're setting that whole discussion aside. We're talking about with the physical body that you possess right now. Ask yourself whether if you were cornered, for lack of a better term, and somebody demanded your property and was threatening you and intimidating you with physical size and the threat of violence, and you couldn't run, do you possess the ability to physically remove them from in front of you and then be able to run? Because remember, this is not about winning a UFC fight. This is not about pinning the individual on the ground and waiting for them to tap out. This is about you being able to rescue yourself when you need to be rescued on a very intimate moment. That's a question you have to ask. If you can't do that, or you're not absolutely confident in your ability to move a human being out of the way and extract yourself, then I strongly suggest you get into training. Now, I've said this many times. People always come back, I don't have the money, I can't afford to do it. Nobody said it cost any money. Welcome to YouTube. There's a lot of lessons on YouTube. There are a lot of community service organizations that run women's self-defense classes. There are a lot of community organizations that have funding to bring in some type of self-defense instructor. But I'll offer you this. It's very much like physiotherapy. I have a bad set of knees for 28 years in the Army. I'm doing my best to take care of them. I go to physiotherapy. But I know that 30 minutes with a physiotherapist, even though Hillary is absolutely brilliant, there is literally no way that is going to make me better unless I take what she shows me and I bring it home and I practice regularly. Self-defense training is the exact same way. Get proper education from somebody who is a skilled expert in a group setting so you can share the cost if there is any, or you can train together, you can motivate each other. There's nothing better than doing something in the collective because you can motivate and gain great solidarity with your friends and then practice. Because if you think going to a Krav Maga lesson once a week for 30 minutes and doing nothing else is going to give you the self-confidence, the problem is you might believe you now have the skill set. But when you go to grab and do that arm twisty thing and grab the elbow and twist it the other way, you're staring at the sky and you don't know what just happened to you, right? It takes practice. It takes effort like any other skill. You crawl, you walk, and then you run. You get good over time. You can find a group of people. You can find a community service. You can find a methodology online to teach you basic, simple self-defense techniques, because it is all about executing one task and one task only. That is removing the human from in front of you and exiting at full speed. First, you have to be able to exit at full speed. Second, you have to be able to remove the human. Again, the odds of this are low, but they're not zero. And I implore this, and it's not a popular topic, but I think we have to realize that in the growing times and the reality we live in, there is a probability that you may be faced with a situation where you'll have to make a decision on your own, whether you engage or you pull back. Another great example of what drives people nuts is road rage. Okay? And I used to be somebody, and I'll be open and honest with you, and my wife, God love her, my best friend, will tell you anytime, I used to yell and scream and honk. And then at a certain time in my life, I realized, what is the point? What I was allowing to happen is I was allowing some idiot's driving skills and decisions behind the wheel to influence my emotions. I was getting upset because dude was driving like an idiot. That is illogical. It makes no sense. It goes back to the Stoic philosophy that you can see over here. It goes back to the Stoic philosophy that simply means everything that happens in the world is a dichotomy of control, right? I control it or I don't control it. If I can control, the only thing I control is my actions and what I say. I control my driving, so I try to be less of an idiot on the road than others. Less than an idiot. We're never idiot free. And then when somebody does an idiot thing, it's beyond my control. Therefore, I'm not going to allow it to influence my behavior, right? Honking at somebody who pulled in front of you. Why? Because you just want to tell them how angry you are? Well, congratulations, human. You're amazing. Look at what you just did. You were able to honk in traffic. Are you proud of yourself? Like, seriously. People get themselves bent out of shape over other people's actions when you have absolutely little control. And trust me on this. If you pulled them over and gave them a stern lecture about how you believe that their driving is inappropriate, let me ask you, what do you think you're going to get back as an answer to that, right? You're probably not going to get, oh, you're right. I was driving like an idiot. You know what? I apologize. I'm sorry that caused you inconvenience, and I can see how it could upset you. And again, I'm really sorry for the inconvenience, and I'll try to do better next time. No, that's not the world that happens. That's not what goes down. The point is this. You get from A to B, you let people drive like idiots, you give them space, you smile, you laugh. If somebody honks and gives you the middle finger, it's a great story for later, right? I cut a guy off a couple of weeks ago, totally by accident because I wasn't paying enough attention, and I waved him on and he goes, you go ahead, you're in the middle of the intersection. And I just put my hand up and said, I'm sorry, and I drove away. Why would I worry about it? I apologize. I was the idiot in the car, right? So I apologize, and he gave me a thing. He gave me a dirty look. He shook his head like he knew better. Fair enough, buddy. You had your moment. I was wrong. Well done. Off I go. Have a great day. I want to make sure here, if you got any questions about this, drop over to www.preparednesslabs.ca. There's a contact form there. It drops into our Shopify store where we have if you go up and hit catalog, and then there's a whole bunch of free titles that are there. The Journal of Preparedness in Canada, the first three versions are there. The fourth one is coming out in August. Going to have some great results for a preparedness, social capital, and trust in government survey I did in the United States of America. So that'll be coming out in August. Make sure you stay tuned to that. I'll announce it on the podcast, but it'll be over on our website. But there's also a little four steps to preparedness guide, a little 2-pager guide that I made for anybody who doesn't want to read five versions of the Roadmap to Resilience and doesn't want to watch 5 videos. There's a very quick and easy, free to download file there. What we're trying to do is provide you with the best possible information free of charge. We provide it here on the podcast, we do it on YouTube, and we do it on Substack. And we provide this so that you can consume the information free of charge in whatever medium you prefer. But at Preparedness Labs Incorporated and this podcast Inside My Canoe Head, our goal is to pass on information about risk, resilience, and preparedness. To empower you to be able to chase your dreams, pursue what you want, and increase your wealth and increase the quality of your life, all while living in the chaotic 2020s. And if you've ever, a great podcast, obviously, is the Diary of a CEO that has, millions and millions of subscribers. And I have 176 on here. And I'm going to pause for a second. I really appreciate all 176 subscribers, and I'm dead serious. I do this for free. I appreciate you subscribing. I appreciate your comments. Share this podcast, share this YouTube with somebody. The fact that I might actually reach 200 subscribers on my YouTube video, I just get chills. I mean, imagine having 200 subscribers on YouTube. That's pretty amazing. But the Diary of his CEO, the last several episodes on there, he has had some very prominent individuals talking about what might come in a disruptive society, what might come forward. And today we're talking about physical violence and the increase in petty crime. As you see economic downturn, as people's quality of life goes down, as their income goes down, you see more and more theft. You see more and more robberies. You see more and more petty crime where people are no longer able to get what they believe they need to survive, and they believe that crime and theft is an appropriate course of action. I'm not here to judge. You can do what you see to do. The court of law will deal with you. The point is that our economies are headed in a negative position, probably for a reasonable period of time, and that will likely see an increased level of petty crime, which is why we're having this conversation today, why I think it's important to talk about the fact that someday you may have to throw hands and you may have to understand that physical violence, as much as you may abhor it, as much as you may not believe in it, it's part of the human animal's existence. I know many people will say, and we'll close on this, many people will say, we shouldn't live in a society like that. It's not right to live in a society where people might be afraid and where violence exists. I absolutely agree. We shouldn't, but we do. And there's nothing you or I can do to change the level of violence in the civilization we live in. All that we can do is better prepare ourselves and our families for deal with the very low probability but high consequence occurrence of you being in a no-notice sudden onset event, being placed in a situation where you're faced with actual or intimidation of physical violence, and you're going to have to act because there's nobody around to act for you. That is not a probability of 0. It may approach 0 in some places, but it may be higher in others. And this is just the reality of the world we live in, not the world we want to live in. We have to realize that there are certain things going on where we choose to live, and we have to deal with it and be ready. So I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it helpful. Continue to follow us at preparednesslabs.ca, and there's a link to the podcast there. You can go to the podcast website at insidemycanoehead.ca. Subscribe. We're available on all platforms. And if you want to help out and do one thing, subscribe to the YouTube channel. I would be blown away by reaching 200 subscribers. It's pretty cool. I love what I do. I turn 55 in a couple of months, and this is my way to give back to the community at large. So take care. Stay safe.